So this one was easily the most difficult stadium I've made yet. Um, at first, I didn't think it was going to be that difficult until I started looking at the outfield and the outfield seats, just because they have a weird angle to them, and it's just hard to gauge exactly what angle they should be at. And the right and left field fences in the corner um, is a pretty unique design itself. Kind of like the cookie cutter stadiums, like the last one I made, the Fulton County Stadium, where it's just difficult to get the corners right because you can't edit the foul territory. You can see how those seats kind of they hang out there well past the fence at a pretty unique angle. Like, I think the seats were just added on mostly for football, unless the fences were maybe much unless the field of play was much bigger when it originally opened. I don't think it was that much bigger, but I was making the mistake of trying to build the seats at the left field corner first, and obviously behind home plate is the easiest place to start with your seats, and then it's easiest just to build out from there. And here I was trying to add the seats that hang out in right field, and I must have redone those seats probably, I don't know, 5 or 10 times before I eventually went with how they looked, I guess. And this was another part of the stadium giving me a lot of trouble. The left and right field corners in the foul territory, really probably the most difficult spot for trying to recreate these classic stadiums, not being able to edit the foul territory. Like, this is where you kind of, outside of needing to edit that foul territory, like, just if you could build your own seating arrangement or something and copy it and save it or whatever, because it wasn't that easy trying to make the same thing, trying to make it look the same on the right field corner like the left field corner. So I'm not even sure if it exactly looks the same or not, but. And then I don't know why I added that. I later deleted that. I deleted some of those seats as well. And then even some of that upper deck piece I added in there. I think I deleted out that section behind home plate with the press box. I think I left this upper deck part, except for here at the corner. I later adjusted that so it wasn't at such an angle. And right here is just a lot of blending going on. It's funny, I had much of this upper deck made, and I finally look at the field almost when I was completely finished with it, and I'm like, the real thing is not at that angle. So I had to redo the right and left field ends of it. So here I wanted to make the upper deck look a little bigger. I was going through a lot of the seats to see what would blend in the best and what would work. And I'm surprised they don't have an upper deck piece that's basically the same size as that I made these into. But this surprisingly worked pretty good. Adding that, I think it looks pretty good. And then there I'm just adding some kind of, I don't know for sure what that was at the top of behind home plate. Not sure if on the opposite side is where they had the name for Memorial Stadium at or not. Because it didn't look like it was any kind of press box. It just looked like it was some extra wall or something up there on the top. Now, I'm not sure what it was exactly. Maybe somebody can comment on that. This was something I almost forgot to add. I was just looking through a photo and I happened to see flags at the top. And I mean, I think it gives a nice little touch. It's something nice to add to the seats for the outfield anyway. And I think the first thing I had noticed was the flag out in center field, I think behind the batter's eye, and then after that I had noticed the flags around the upper deck of the stadium. And this is like the seats I added onto the upper deck. This is kind of like the same thing, but I wanted the seats to blend together from the seats that are all behind in the field of play part. I wanted those to blend together with the seats for the outfield. And without this, it would have just it would have looked a little weird without blending them together. And I ended up adding those seats all the way around. And here I'm just trying to blend them together on the left field end. And this was not anything I expected to do or planned to do, because I didn't know what seats I was going to use for that outfield part. And the seats I'm using right here are the only ones that looked right. And then once you match them together with the seats I have already in place here, it just doesn't look right. You know, the ones they're at a much they're at a different angle, and I don't know, it just didn't look right. So, and then here it's just fighting with the camera, trying to get the height right on them. And really the only way I could figure out that I had the right height was being able to look through and seeing if any of the fans' heads were going through that piece. You can see the fans sticking up there, but there was really no good way of doing this with the camera. And then once I added those couple pieces and I thought the height was right, I just kept adding and went all the way around. At this point, I'm just looking over the seats I added to see if it looks right, seeing if anything stands out that shouldn't. Outside of the fans covering up the aisleways there in some parts, it's hard to even tell that those pieces were added in there. And you can see how that blends together so much better than if I didn't add that other piece. And still, after placing these, I still probably rearranged them 5 more times before getting them where I liked the way it looked. And at that point, I still hadn't done anything with the outfield outside of adding those seats. So the field the seats are kind of raised, and you can see the black wall around. So I couldn't have the seats up as high as I wanted, just because that upper deck with the luxury boxes hangs down pretty low, so I had to have these seats here in the outfield a little bit lower. You can see there's not a lot of room there between that luxury box and the lower bowl part of seats. So I decided to add this sign 21 or whatever it's called. Turned it around and put it in the ground, and I think it works pretty good as looking like an outfield wall, and it kind of covers up probably the first row maybe of people, and it just makes it look like the seats are actually raised up, but they're kind of not. They're actually lower than what they should be. Here I'm just looking at the upper deck, right field and left field corners. I didn't really like the angle they were at. Now, they would have looked good for any other stadium. Would have went pretty good if I was making Yankee Stadium or something like that, but this stadium just has a little bit of a different look to it, so this might be the first time I did this with seats in the upper deck, where I was just grabbing a hold of them and turning them a little bit, put them in a little bit of a different direction. And still, I thought it looked pretty good when I did it, and a lot easier than I thought it would be. And then once I moved those seats, I did the same with these outfield seats. One little thing that kind of sucked about making this was, at first I usually use Google to find my images for the reference to the stadium, and I also use Getty Images, and neither one of them really had a lot of good photos. And later on, when the stadium was like 95% complete, basically, if not more, I looked on Flickr, and Flickr has a lot of good photos of this stadium. Now, I don't know if I would have been able to make it any better looking than I did and how it turned out, but the photos off Flickr would have made, I think, the whole process a little bit easier. Just because it had better photos of those right field and left field corners, which are, I think, the most difficult part with this stadium. And it also showed off a lot of details in the outfield and stuff at different angles. But I think going forward, some of these stadiums are going to be a lot easier to make with some of the photos off Flickr. And even with Ebbets Field, there wasn't very many on Google to work off. And I looked up Ebbets Field on Flickr, and there was a lot of nice photos on there that would have helped. So it's funny with adding these bleachers to center field. It really depends on what year you want to look at with this stadium, because it had so many different configurations. And I think these are probably based off somewhere in the 80s to when it closed. And it's interesting because in some photos you look at, like there's a lot of the old ones where they have one scoreboard, and you'll see one scoreboard that's kind of in left center, or one scoreboard that's in right center. Like, I don't get that. Maybe somebody that knows a little bit more about this stadium will know why they once had a scoreboard in one corner of the outfield, and then they had another scoreboard in the other part of the outfield, and then they eventually had two scoreboards in the outfield. So maybe somebody knows the story behind that, but I think it's pretty interesting. Because I think, they're both in the outfield, and I don't think the fans in right field could see either scoreboard any better than with there being one or two scoreboards. I just find it a little interesting that the stadium had two of them. And here I was just randomly placing some trees that kind of surrounded the stadium. And I know this ain't the exact light tower. It was probably the closest thing, but heck, it'd be nice if this thing had create a light tower. I mean, you would think most of these stadiums would have the same light towers, but surprisingly they don't. Who knew they really made that many different kind of light towers for baseball stadiums? Now, when I was adding these little the little hill or whatever you want to call it there, I didn't really notice that the outfield had some kind of hill to it, and I'm not I have no idea about it because it's just so hard when you're looking at the photos to actually tell if there's really a hill out there and how big it is. I mean, it looks like the one scoreboard is sitting on one. It looks like there's some kind of ramp out there, or steps, or something like that, or stairway. Again, it's hard to tell when you're looking at some of them photos because it's just, a far away view, and I didn't exactly see any close up photos, or close up shots of those different parts of the outfield. But so I added the parking lot, and then when I looked around home plate from home plate, I couldn't see anything of the parking lot. I couldn't see the cars, and that was before I added any of the hills or anything like that. Because originally I wasn't even going to add them. So originally I wasn't going to add any of the hills or anything like that because that's just something I didn't really know about. So, but after adding the parking lots and the cars, I couldn't see anything. So I kind of decided to raise them up. And then the best way to hide a raised parking lot is to add the hill pieces to blend it in, I guess. And then this is just adding a little bit dimension to it. I did notice there was some kind of fence around, separating the stadium from the parking lot, kind of. And the fence would have been a nice little extra dimension wherever it would have shown up. But I don't understand why the fence takes up so much data. Like, I think I was around 80% or 75% or something like that before I added the fence. And then when I added the fence around that outfield part, and then I added some fence around the seats that were around the scoreboards and whatnot, it went from like 80% up to 100%. I just don't know why the chain link fence takes up so much data. Like, it's unbelievable. So then, of course, I had to delete most of the fence, which was not fun. So I think now I know enough. I'm not going to add much fence to anywhere in the stadium unless it's just some little piece that you can notice. Maybe like a piece of fence to separate where the bullpen might be or something like that in some part of the outfield. This was another little thing I noticed in some of the photos. Was it looked like there was a bunch of park benches out in front of the scoreboard that's in part of the left field area. And I don't know if they were there for sure, but in the photo it looked like they were, so I kind of went with it. I thought it was a nice little touch. Added a little bit of dimension to it. I mean, it looked like kind of like a little park area, I guess. I think most, or I think some of that fence there, I still had to delete more of the fence because as I was adding stuff, I was running out of data. I think I had went from 100%, and I got it down to like 93%, and I thought that would be enough. And after I added a bunch of stuff, it got back up to like 98% or something, I don't know, but then I had to delete more fence. Like the fence right there would have made sense. And, give it a little bit of dimension to the outfield. Something that surprises me is with the bleacher seats. How do they not have any large bleacher sections that you can add to the stadium? I mean, even most new stadiums have some section of bleachers. I know that Comerica Park has them, and I can't exactly speak for other new stadiums, but I just don't get why they don't have any bleacher seating outside of the little bleacher seats that they have, like these, and the other ones that look like something that go on go to a high school football field, or something you might see like in the Sandlot or something. And that was another little thing I had seen in a photo. It was like it looked like there was some kind of wall separating the picnic area from where the bleacher section was. And what I'm doing here with this piece of bleachers was I kind of get the fence dimension here, and I thought it looked good with the people. It kind of looked like the people were just sitting there on the wall, hanging out there. And it was a good spot because it looks like something that might show up maybe if you hit a home run, or if you can see through that part of the fence there where I added the chain link fence to the wall. And there I added, on the right side of those bleachers, I added a building on the back. And then I added some picnic tables to the top of it. Again, I have no idea about that and what purpose it was. I don't exactly know if it had picnic tables on it, but it looked like it did. It looked like it could have been a spot where they maybe had some cameras or something. I don't know. But maybe that's something somebody can comment on that went to the stadium while it was still in use. What was this part? What was this building for? Did it have picnic tables on it? Whatever. And I was really going back and forth with the scoreboards. I wasn't liking any of them. And I really wish they just added some more classic scoreboards. Because I mean, they have the one for Polo Grounds, but that thing only works in so many stadiums. They really don't have much of anything for, much of the 70s and 80s. And like this kind of scoreboard right here from Major League, the one that had the old animation, which every ballpark back then had, Tiger Stadium, Cleveland Stadium, Yankee Stadium, they all had it. That's the kind of scoreboard I wish they would add with those old blocky video animations. And hopefully hopefully eventually they add a video editor, or not a video editor, but something where you can create your own logo and add it to the field, and that would probably be the best way to make a scoreboard fitting of some of these fields from the 80s or 90s, and they already have it to where you can, add your own logo to the game for Diamond Dynasties, so I think it's only a matter of time before it's put in for the baseball stadiums, for Stadium Creator. And once they do that, I think it's really going to open the floodgates to bring some of these old ballparks to life. I mean, like, even some of the little things, like, I would have liked to added. Like, I seen some sign overhanging the upper deck seat in a video from this stadium. It was like the last game, the O's against the Tigers. It was like some 1959, 1991 sign, and it's just little things like that would help bring these stadiums more to life. But here in play, I think the stadium looks nice. I think the outfield and everything turned out good. Maybe when you look at it from an aerial point of view, it might not look perfect to its dimensions and everything, but I think when you're looking at it from the field of play or from a batter's box, and even some home run animations, I think it looks pretty good. But this was definitely a tough stadium to design. I hope I did pretty good by it. And I hope everybody has fun using it. It's online, available to download and use. It took about 6 to 8 hours to make this thing. And I put as much effort into it as I could. If there's something you think I can improve on it, let me know, and I can update it. But leave a like, leave a comment. Thanks for watching. I hope you have fun with this stadium. It was pretty fun to make.